The Eminence in Shadow, Episode 4, Sadism's Rewards. So I've talked about this briefly in previous episodes, where I feel like the series doesn't know what it wants to be. Does it want to be a comedy or does it want to be serious? The source material is just a straight up comedy. This series, the anime, it keeps trying to balance the two. And in this episode, they really double down on that. Half the episode is hilarious. The other half is really dark and depressing. So let's get into it. I will be comparing this a lot to the manga because I'm all caught up on the manga. I'm not so caught up on the light novel or web novel. I'm way behind on those. So most of my comparisons will be between this and the manga, just so you know. But we start off with Alexia, and she wakes up. She's been kidnapped in the last episode, and she wakes up and she's in this prison, tied down to a bed with shackles that are draining her magic. And this mad scientist comes in and he's draining her blood and saying how he's going to use it to create demons and stuff like that. And she just kind of apathetically says, "I see. Sounds lovely." Now, this already is straight off different than the manga. In the manga, when she wakes up, the scientist comes in, but he comes in freaking out because they're being under attack. And I'll get to that later on. So then we cut to Cid, and Cid is strapped down to a table, shirtless. He's just in his underwears, and he's being quote unquote interrogated by two guards. They're just beating the crap out of him and trying to get him to confess to kidnapping Alexia. And this scene is actually a scene that the anime does way better than the manga did. So in this scene, they're taking glee and beating the crap out of him. And Cid's like, "I can't let them out unshine me. Like, this is perfect." Like, inside his head, Cid is giddy about being interrogated. He's like, "This is like one of the, like, I never thought that I would be in a scene like this. This is like a straight up background character mob scene." And so they say that they're going to torture him some more. And Cid starts overacting. He starts crying and begging them to stop. And meanwhile, in his head, he's like, "This is so perfect. Like, I love this." So it's this weird thing where Cid's being tortured, which should be like a serious moment, but he's gleefully enjoying it because this is straight out of like one of his fantasies. So I thought the scene was way better done in here than it was in the manga. Because in the manga, he just gets punched a couple of times. Like, he's not strapped down or anything. He still has his regular clothes. They kind of just punch him for a bit, and then they let him go. And later, when he goes back to his apartment, he's talking to Alpha. He's pissed off. He's like, "How dare those guards attack me?" and stuff like that. Whereas here, he's not pissed off at the guards. He gleefully enjoys them attacking him. But then we cut back to Alexia, and it's been a while. The life is kind of draining from her eyes. Like, this guy has been draining so much blood out of her. She's just apathetic. It's almost like she just wants death. And yeah, it's just like, even the way she talks, it's just, there's no emotion. There's no emotion in her eyes. Like, the mad scientist is just like freaking out and getting pissed off about how he was so close to coming up with something, and the city, those in charge, like, basically threw him away before he can complete his goals. And now he's gonna, like, I'll show them. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure you will." And there's this like monstrous creature in the cell next to Alexia that this guy has been experimenting on, and he's kind of mistreating this creature. And then he goes and he realizes, "Oh, like, you're running low on blood, so I gotta feed you." So he's like shoving gruel down Alexia's throat and like force feeding her. And yeah, like, this scene is just, there's no humor whatsoever. It's just straight up serious and brutal and depressing, especially just the way that Alexia is acting. We see Iris. Iris is trying to figure out, where her sister is, what's going on. She's talking to Zenon, and Zenon says that they have a suspect, but he doesn't believe that Cid's the one who's he's the one who's behind it because he's too stupid. Like, he's a terrible student. There's no way he could have done it. If it was him, then he has to have some kind of culprits. Meanwhile, there's a disturbance outside, and it's Cid's sister, and she's basically fighting off everybody trying to get to her brother because she's like saying that her brother's innocent. And here it's pretty funny because she basically fights off this group that's trying to hold her down like all day and all night. So she really loves her brother. Again, here it's different than in the manga. In the manga, Cid's sister just storms the room that Iris is in and basically threatens Iris. And like she says, like my brother wouldn't have done this. He's too stupid. He wouldn't hurt a fly. If you do anything to Cid, basically she threatens like, I'm gonna kill you. But she gets cut off by Zenon before. He's like, stop it. Like, do you know what you're doing? Like what you're speaking is treacherous. And Iris doesn't say anything because she's like, I understand what it feels like to be scared for your sibling. But eventually Cid is let go. They put a tail on him just to, keep people like watching over him. And so he's like on a train station. There's two guys who are like watching him. When he steps out, they follow after him. And as he's walking, Alpha walks past. And basically he tells them like, it's almost time. And then she takes out the two guys who are watching Cid. And then we have a moment where Cid is in his apartment and Alpha shows up there. And I actually prefer this scene better here in the anime than I did in the manga. Because in the manga, he kind of briefly talks to Alpha and she just hands him a plate filled with it's like sandwiches. And there's no like, it's very like an apathetic kind of moment between the two of them. But here in the anime, it's a lot better. It's a lot more like you can see how much Alpha really loves Cid. Cid's laying down, Alpha's going. It's almost kind of sexual in a way. She kind of like climbs almost on top of him. She like slowly like undoes his tie. Then she kneels in front of him and starts taking off his boots. And then she hands him she preciously hands him like a sandwich. Like the moment here between the two of them, I think, is a lot better. Really played out well, a lot better than the manga did it. But she then informs him that Delta is around, and I got so excited because I was like, yes, my girl Delta is finally going to show up, but she didn't. Delta, we have a brief moment of Delta, but we don't actually ever see her. We just see like the aftermath of what she does, but I'll get to that later on. This is a shame because Delta is my favorite. Delta is the best girl. But yeah, eventually Alpha leaves, Cid's alone, and we have this funny moment where he's setting up his room to be perfect. Like he's hanging these like French paintings. He has this glass of wine, and along with the bottle, he has this light that he purchased to give the perfect ambience. He like even maneuvers his chair in a certain way. Like he wants everything to be perfect. And the reason for that is because when nightfall comes, which is another hilarious thing, basically Cid's sitting down in his chair and he's waiting in it's daytime. And then it switches to nighttime and he's still there. So he wanted to have this perfect scene. So he sat in a chair and he waited for hours so that this perfect scene can happen. And the perfect scene is that Beta shows up and she opens up the door to Cid's office, and she's in shock. She's like, oh wow, she's like taken in by all this stuff that Cid has. And Cid is in his shadow uniform using his shadow voice, and he does this like speech, and he slowly turns around the chair while gently shaking his glass of wine as he sips from it. And Beta's basically going over this plan about how I have called in over 100 people. And Cid's like, over 100? Are you serious? And Beta thinks that he's upset because that's too little. But Cid's like, where the hell did she get all these extras from? I think he's like scared he's going to have to pay all these people. Because at this point in time, Cid is still under the belief that these girls are just role-playing with him. He believes that they're off doing their own thing, living their own life, and then when they come to visit him, they just come to visit him to roleplay for a little bit just because they think that that's what he wants, and then they disappear back to their regular lives. But that's not what they're doing. They actually are building the Shadow Group, the Shadow Garden. They are, bringing in members, scattering their reach across the globe, gathering information, making plans. But Cid doesn't think that they're doing any of that. He just believes that they're just role playing with him. But yeah, Beta basically comes and says everything is ready, set up. Delta is gonna start first, and then once her signal goes, everyone's gonna play their part, and then Cid does this like cool trick with a letter that he has been practicing for hours. So he does it, and it like mystifies Beta. She's like, "Oh wow," she's entranced by this trick, and then he hands her a letter, and he basically says, I'm gonna have to apologize to Delta, but I'm gonna have to kickstart the prelude right now. So yeah, he leaves, and then we cut back to Alexia, and Alexia, like again, it's just sad and depressing. Like the light in her eyes is basically gone. She's covered in dirt and gruel that this mad scientist was trying to force feed her. It's just like all over her face, her clothes. She's just dirty and grimy, and she kind of shares this moment with the monster in the cell next to her. Yeah, it's just again, it's just I don't know if the series knows what it wants to do, because in the manga, well, I'll get to how the manga does it. Let's just continue on. So then we have Cid, and he's walking down an alleyway in his regular school attire. So he's not the Shadow right now, he's just Cid. And he comes across the two guards who are beating him. And the two guards throw a shoe at him and basically said, "Hey, that's Alexia's shoe. Looks like there's traces of magic behind it. You're the culprits. Why don't you just confess?" So basically they're planting evidence on him. And that's when Cid realizes that, oh, these guys are behind her kidnapping in some way. And he kills him. He just brutally kills him. Not only does he kill them, but he also killed the two people that were following him. Like basically before the guards can charge him, the two people that they had watching Cid get tossed behind the guards, and they're dead. And the guards are like, "Oh my god, that's the guy that we had tracking you. What did you do to them?" And before they can attack him, Cid brutally slays one and then slices the arm off another. Then he transforms into his shadow persona in front of the remaining guard before slaughtering him. And as he's slaughtering the guards, he's giving like this speech about the shadows and stuff. And behind Cid, witnessing all this, is Beta, and she's like frantically writing down everything Cid is doing. She's basically writing down his adventures. And she's happily doing so. She's like taken aback by all this stuff that Cid's doing. Like to her, he's like the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I thought that was a nice little funny moment. And then we cut to Delta and what she's doing, and she's basically slaughtering a bunch of people. It happens really quick. Like you barely see her. In fact, I had to pause a frame just so I can get this screenshot of her. But yeah, she's massacring a bunch of people, and she's like cuts down a building in half. So yeah, I kind of wish I could have seen more of her massacre, because Delta's best girl, and I want to see the best girl get more screen time. But yeah, we just briefly get a glimpse of her creating all this chaos. But then yeah, we cut back to Alexia, and the scientist is freaking out. He runs in. He's like, they're here. They're gonna ruin my experiments. He grabs like this huge syringe filled with Alexia's blood. He jabs it into the monster and pumps the blood in, and the monster grows and mutates, becomes larger, breaks out of its chains, impales the mad scientist in the face, killing him. And then it walks over to Alexia and knocks over her shackles before breaking out. And as it's breaking out, like the ceilings and roof is kind of collapsing. And so Alexia is free, and she rushes out. She's rushing through these dungeons, and she comes across Zenon. And Zenon reveals that he's the mastermind that was behind her kidnapping. And the reason behind the kidnapping is so that he can take her blood and then give it to the scientist who he was funding. And basically, with that scientist's research, Zenon can make his way up in the world, and he can become a member of the Knights of the Round, which are 12 knights who basically have a lot of prestige and fame and money. So yeah, that's why he kidnapped Alexia. He originally wanted to kidnap Iris, but there was no way he had a chance to do that. So he settled on Alexia instead. And of course, being compared to her sister and just being kidnapped by this guy and not liking him in the first place, she gets pissed off. So they have like a fight scene. He easily overpowers her. But before he can do anything, Cid in his shadow persona shows up, and that's how it ends. So in the manga, we don't have any of Alexia's depressing moments. Alexia isn't apathetic and doesn't show suicidal ideation like she does in the anime. In fact, in the manga, Alexia wakes up, realizes she's in chains, and then the doctor immediately runs in saying, they're here. And he tries to take some blood from her. He kind of briefly explains his plan, and then he immediately injects the monster, and the monster breaks free. And then kills the mad scientist, frees Alexia. And then as Alexia is walking, she comes across Zenon. And Zenon doesn't immediately reveal his plans. Zenon instead is like, oh, I'm glad you're safe. I came here to save you. There's a wagon waiting for us outside. And he plays up this hero act for a while before Alexia realizes that this is all too perfect. There's no way that he could have this perfect rescue unless he was behind it and planned this whole thing out. And so that's how she discovers. Yeah, in the manga, Zenon plays up the good guy act for a while. In the anime, he just comes right out and reveals that he's the one behind it all. In the manga, there is no Alexia being, best way you can describe it is tortured. I mean, she's being force-fed to eat gruel, tied to this table for a week, and just having her blood drained over and over and over again. And you just see her slowly kind of dying and just becoming more, like I said, apathetic about her life, suicidal ideation. Whereas in the manga, she's not like that at all. She's actually defiant. When the scientist comes in, she's like, are you my kidnapper? Let me go. You're not going to get away with this. Like, she's constantly berating him and like yelling at him and stuff like that. She's like defying him. And he gets killed quickly after Alexia meets him. Whereas here, it's not that quick. They drag it out. So here, I would say that I don't like the way the anime does it. Just because not only does it drag out Alexia's scenes for longer than it needed to be, but also because it's portraying her moment as really dark and depressing. In the manga, like I said, she wakes up, her immediate thought after realizing she's kidnapped is wondering how Cid is doing and hoping that he's okay. Here, she doesn't even really think about him. Like, she has a brief flash of Cid, but she doesn't say anything. That's kind of it. But also, just because the manga doesn't portray it like this, we get to the action and we get to the humor a lot quicker. Whereas here, it's this weird thing where this series doesn't know if it wants to be an edgelord isekai or if it wants to be a over-the-top comedy isekai. So it's trying to do both. I don't know. For me, it's not necessarily working. I think just embrace the fact that this is a comedy. Embrace the fact that this is a humorous series and just do that. Yes, the series has some moments of seriousness, but then they're immediately undercut by humor. So it doesn't sit on any serious moments. It's just basically you might get like a brief page or something of something that's serious, and then immediately the very next panel is something hilarious. So humor is what's the big selling point. Humor is the driving behind this series. Whereas here, it's like they're trying to make it. They're trying to balance humor with seriousness, and it's just not working. The best way I can describe the series, like the manga, the light novel and stuff, is it's kind of like South Park, where the quote-unquote serious moments are so over-the-top serious that it comes around to being a comedy. Like, you can never say South Park is serious. Like, even its serious quote-unquote moments, it's so over-the-top that it just falls. It remains a comedy. That's exactly how the manga and the light novel and the web novel are. Like, even the serious moments, not only are they few and far between, but they're so over-the-top serious that it comes around to being a parody almost. And so you're back to being humor. Whereas here, they're not doing that. The seriousness is not like so over the top it becomes a comedy. The seriousness is just really dark and depressing and effed up that it's like, oh, okay. I was just laughing a minute ago and now I'm not. And then they try to immediately bring in humor like with the next scene. And it's like it's not finding its balance for me, anyways. I don't know. You tell me what you think. Do you like the way that they're doing this? Do you like the fact that they're playing the serious moments as actually serious, or do you like the way that the manga and the light novel and the basically the original source materials, the way they do it, where the serious moments are itself also portrayed as humorous because they're so over the top that it falls back into comedy? See, that's the thing. But don't think I'm like ripping on this series. I still really enjoy it. Yeah, like, it's something like I'm not watching much anime because I just don't have the time. Like the few free time I have when I'm not recording, I'm reading manga and comics. So Chainsaw Man and Eminence and Shadow are the only like animes I'm kind of watching right now. I'm starting to try to catch up on Ultraman, the Netflix series. But yeah, like I do really enjoy this series. Like even if I wasn't watching it to do recordings for, I would still watch it. So I still enjoy it. I'm not a fan of them trying to balance the comedy with seriousness. Like the seriousness is too serious, it's too dark, too depressing, too like, wow, like this can be a melodrama. Whereas it should just be a comedy all the way through. That's my opinion though. What do you think? Do you agree? Disagree? How do you like it? Do you think they're finding a good balance? Do you wish that they would stick to one or the other? Let me know. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time. Take care, everybody. Later.